Good evening, everybody. How are we all doing? My name is Mike Dewan here at the Region Sports Network. Joined alongside me is, of course, my esteemed co-host, Jay Simmons. Jay, Thursday evening, Region Football Weekly, presented by Tire Pros in Maryville. It's postseason, man. How are we feeling?
Yes, it is. We're feeling good, man. A lot of things settled in over the last weekend. A lot of conference titles won, and the draw, and we're going to have a great show. I think we're going to have some fun talking about, a lot of teams checked off those boxes that we talked about throughout the season, so let's get into it.
Yeah, big shout out again. We're doing this all from the Centaur Bank studio at the Athletic Performance Factory. A big date over here as we kind of see, as we've been kind of coming through here. We've seen job interviews, Jay. We've seen this place really kind of built from the ground up. And November 4th is a big day here at the Athletic Performance Factory. I believe that's the day they're targeting to be open to the public in this kind of area. This a home plate eatery and bar, I believe the name of what this is called, and going to be awesome over there. A big shout out to Doug Schaefer for opening his doors for us and letting us do what we do on Thursdays and Friday nights. Jay, but yeah, you hit it right on the head. Some conference champions were crowned. Obviously, sectionals are already drawn. We'll talk about that as we get into the first week of the playoffs. But Jay, we got to talk about Week 9, and we'll kind of just roll through the scores like we do. And we'll start with the NCC Championship. Jay, we'll pump the brakes immediately. A 3v4 matchup. Andrean 19, Lowell 3 got the win at the Inferno. Jay, I mean, we sound like broken records on this show, but I mean, it's something that you have to really talk about when you mention this Andrean team, and that is their defense. Their defense just shut down Lowell once again, forced some turnovers, limited a rushing team to really not a whole lot, and obviously just caught the best of them there that last Friday night.
Yes, they did, and they are on a roll defensively, and they're putting the pieces together offensively. This team could make a deep run in the 2A playoffs.
They're really scary, and again, we'll talk about their sectional going forward, but yeah, I mean, it's, again, saying the same stuff we've been saying for these past X amount of weeks, but it's all kind of don't want to say it gets easier from here, but they haven't played a two-way school, right? I think we looked on the schedule. They didn't play a two-way school all season long, so this is really when they make their money. Andrean, the NCC champs, Jay, this team also was 3-7 2 years ago. And to see kind of this growth, obviously last year they had a lot of success, although it was a three-way tie in the NCC. To see Andrean now take it for themselves and maybe against an opponent that might have been a surprise in Lowell to be in the mix this long, but Andrean, I mean, they've been on a tear since really that Week 1 loss to Maryville.
And you got to look at that one and just chalk it up as good experience for later in the season. You use that as your measuring stick, and you look at Tyler Vo, 10 catches, 156 yards, 2 touchdowns for the Andrean, and wow, their passing game is clicking.
And he's only a sophomore, too, Tyler Vo. So he was kind of somebody last year as a freshman who got some big minutes. I believe he suffered an injury, and obviously he's been that top target outside. 10 catches, that's good for about a 3-game skid, if you will. 10 catches in 1 game. Not bad for the sophomore. A game that Timothy James, that fantastic running back for Lowell, made one back, only had 57 yards on the ground, had 2 costly fumbles. I think the only words of encouragement for the sophomore, hang your head high. You got plenty more football to play, obviously in the playoffs, and obviously, again, you're only a sophomore. Keeping things rolling, Jay, Boone Grove won 21-14 over Bishop Knoll, a game that we could maybe not talk about, but I know Justin, our usual producer, is accidentally filling in for him today. Calumet got the loss to the rival West Side, 36-0, one of the big shockers there. I guess we saw Calumet a few weeks ago against Wheeler, right?
And I think the wheels sort of came off of Calumet when they lost to Wheeler. They were up by 2 touchdowns going into the fourth quarter, and ever since then, the loss to Griffith and now this loss, the wheels really seem to have come off. They've lost their focus.
When it rains, it pours, they say, and it's definitely been pouring for Calumet West Side. Now to a 500 record, 4-4 on the season. A game that was on the Region Sports Network, a top 10 match, but Maryville took it to Chesterton 42-7 in favor of the Pirates. Maryville keep putting up points. Chesterton could not really get much going on the ground or through the air there, Jay. Frontier beat South Newton 49-0, and we'll pump the brakes on this one. A game that you were at, Jay, a GSSC Division Championship, one that, again, you were on color commentary for with Leo Staudiker. Griffith, 34, Wheeler to 10. Wheeler got out in front in this one. They went down the field, scored. I think they were leading after the first quarter. Then after that, Griffith outscored them 34-3. Jay, break this one down for me.
Well, first thing it was, Wheeler came out with a great game plan, was passing, mixing up the throwing, and kept Griffith off balance defensively in that first drive. I think they punched it in with 7 minutes and 50 seconds left in the first quarter. Came back. Griffith went 3 and out, sort of shot themselves in the foot a couple couple costly penalties on that penalties on that opening drive. Then all of a sudden, okay, then it's a back and forth. Wheeler gets the field goal. They're up 10-0, and then from there on out, it was just physical offensive line, defensive line play for Griffith. I don't know how to describe it except for it was just a physical beatdown. And you could tell middle of the third quarter for Wheeler, they were running out of gas. Their offensive line, their defensive line, and Tyler Murray got hurt in the middle of the third quarter, so that sort of pushed them back a little bit and really slowed them down. And a couple other players got hurt, and some offensive linemen got hurt, so they were really scraping to put 11 guys on the field, and it just showed in that third and fourth quarter how vulnerable they were in terms of depth. And then Griffith, just that physicality on that offensive line, they just dominated. Their two running backs had fantastic nights. I think the two guys were the players of the game, the Crowell Lanterman superheroes of the game.
Yeah, about those two, Ventress Tedder, the senior, and Desmond Nealon, the junior. A Lake Central transfer is Nealon, and Tedder was kind of the guy in the backfield to start the season. And what we saw maybe in Week 9 and kind of in the latter half of the season, it's been kind of Nealon's backfield. But these two, Thunder and Lightning, Jay, what can you say about them?
They once they hit the hole, they are so quick, and they put their heads down and run over people. I think between the two of them, they had 4 or 5 touchdowns and over 250 yards rushing. Well, that's a tandem you want in your backfield. That's a ball control backfield right there. And if they get that great push with that offensive line, they could go deep into the playoffs.
And they're impressive when they don't really even have to throw the ball that much, which is something they could do as well. So a big time win there for Griffith, avenging a Week 9 loss last year to Wheeler, and they are now crowned the GSSC South Division champs in what is a very tough division in the GSSC. Hanover Central played Hammond Central, and Hanover Central got the win over the Wolves, 42-0. The Hobart Brickies beat Highland 74-0 game at the Brickyard. Knox also pitched a shutout against the Bowman Academy Eagles, a game that was played last Thursday, 64-0. I believe Miles McLaughlin had around 300 rushing yards for those keeping track at home. A game that didn't really put this in our notes, Jay, but Lake Central 21, Valparaiso 14. We see maybe a good 4 quarters from Lake Central. I mean, that definitely a shock when I kind of came back and saw that.
I saw that. One of the scores that I thought was a shock was that one, and I went on my prediction route and pulled a 0 on that one because I thought Valparaiso was going to bounce back and win that game, and they seemed like they couldn't get out of the way. And finally, Lake Central, great job by the coaching staff there, Pete Koulianos and guys, put together a game where they didn't make a fumble, a special teams mistake, costly penalties. So great job to them. They're putting it together right at the right time.
Although Valparaiso kind of sputtering Lake Central, probably one of those kind of signature wins, or maybe a miniature signature win, especially in Week 9 when they have a tough 6A Sectional 1 in front of them. A game that I was at between Lake Station and River Forest. There were no shortage of penalties and turnovers in this first half, Jay. But things cleared up, and River Forest had quite the second half to win this rivalry game, 19-6 in favor of the Ingots. It was one of those rivalries that I can really speak on, being there. Obviously, I only know so little as kind of an outsider, but seeing those two communities and just how close the schools are, Jay, 2.6 miles. It was fun to watch. But River Forest, 19 points in the second half. They were down 6-0 at the break. And a fun one over there.
Yeah, and like I said last week, this is the one where you throw the records out and teams get jacked up for this game. No matter what records these two teams had coming in, you throw them out the window and play the game. And you had a good time, it seems like, when you were there.
It was fun. It was fun for sure. And again, two teams that just despise each other, to say the least. And who doesn't like that more than we do? A game we could definitely kind of stop a little bit on. Crown Point crowns themselves as the outright Duneland champs for another year, the 4th year in a row. But a game that was kind of close at one point. Michigan City played very well. The final score is 42-28 in favor of the Crown Point Bulldogs. Michigan City actually led in this game, something that Crown Point has yet to do all year. But, Jay, starting with Crown Point, one thing that's, I think, a check mark or a plus in this game is, hey, they responded to some adversity for the first time all season long.
Yeah, you got to like that out of your players. And this is probably one of the games that you can check mark that they had to play their starters the whole game. Yeah. So that's good. They got that bye week coming up here, and then they had to play a whole 4 quarters and then play from behind. That is huge for the Crown Point Bulldogs.
And again, like we said, with that win, it clinches their 4th consecutive unbeaten DAC title. A little bit more even trickling down. I mean, better yet, their JV and freshman teams also went undefeated. So, yeah, you're probably like everybody else outside of Crown Point. It is scary over there. They're trying to, a senior class, obviously, currently with Crown Point that has not had less than a first-place finish in the Duneland, which is very, very impressive. But Jay, about Michigan City, again, led at one point. Trinity Hart had quite the game, 20 of 30 for 357 passing yards, 4 total touchdowns to his name, and Zahir McKinney, 13 catches for 238 yards, 2 touchdowns. Obviously not enough in the losing effort, but a lot of positives to come out here for Michigan City.
That's right. Great job by Michigan City. I think this is a feather in their cap that, hey, that we can hang with these guys. If we play a good, solid first half without any mistakes and just play solid football, we can hang with anybody in 5A. We just showed it. We just proved it in this game. So I think they can make some waves in that 5A playoffs.
That's something we'll definitely get into later. We'll break down the sectional pairings later in the show. The Morton Governors win the GLAC 58-6 over the East Chicago Central Cardinals. That is a 3-peat for the Morton Governors. Munster got the win at Kankakee Valley 17-14. Penn improves to 9-0. 38-6 over the South Bend St. Joseph Huskies. Pioneer and North Judson, a battle between some of 1A's best, 36-18 in favor of the visiting Pioneer Panthers. LaPorte took it to Portage, 35-22 in a good Duneland game over there at LaPorte. South Bend, Washington, and New Prairie, a game that was a shootout, 44-35 in favor of the Cougars from New Prairie. North Newton got the win over Tri-County, 42-6, and Whiting lost big time to LaVille, 70-7. That is all of our scores for Week 9, Jay. We closed the book on not only Week 9, but the regular season. We'll be back here with more on Region Football Weekly on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.
Hi, my name is Mark Macknick. I'm the owner of Mark Macknick CPA firm in Highland, Indiana on Kennedy Avenue. I've been working with Region Sports for years now. Started working with Chris years ago, just on some special projects, advertising here and there. After a while, kind of increased the advertising. Mainly was doing it for the community involvement. It's such a great network and program they do with the high school sports. But as time went by, I started getting on there more frequently, and then the phone starts ringing. And I was getting calls all the time from people. Hey, I saw your ad on so-and-so football game. I saw your ad on a basketball game. And it's really helped my business. It's increased the volume. We're a tight community in Northwest Indiana, sports-wise, and just a lot of community involvement. So that's mainly why I got into it. I remember watching one game. It was a basketball game, and I think there was a little bit of an altercation. And as the altercation was happening, my ad was right on the bottom, and someone typed in, "I wonder what Mark Macknick's thinking right now." And I was thinking, wow, this is awesome. It's really been a great feature for my business. It's the only advertising I do. I don't advertise anywhere else other than Region Sports. It's for the business, but mainly for the involvement with the community. I played high school baseball here in Highland. And ever since I've been advertising on Region Sports, a lot of my old coaches are now my clients. A lot of my old teammates come in here. My recommendation, if you're a business here in Northwest Indiana, I think Region Sports is, for your money, it's one of the best places that you can advertise. I mean, I can advertise on billboards. I could do anywhere I want to. And I choose Region Sports mainly because I get a lot of feedback. Especially on the high school level, a lot of the parents, if they can't make a game, they're watching it online, they're watching a replay, the grandparents. So it's done wonders for my business, and it's my go-to for advertising. It's the only spot I would advertise. So if you're a business owner in the area, really look into advertising on Region Sports. It's going to be well worth your money, and you'll make tenfold on what you're spending. Region Sports Network, they're the only game in town, but they're more than just a game.
Back here on this Thursday evening for Region Football Weekly, presented by Tire Pros in Maryville. We are more than tires. Mike Dewan, Jay Simmons, Zach Sinelli stepping in for Justin Cole, doing a great job behind the keys tonight. Jay, our final Enigenberg Exteriors
Let's get to
Home Improvement Top 10. It's been quite the list. You and I had to break down just about all year. A couple familiar faces, but it seems like kind of, the haves and have-nots.
That's right.
It's kind of separated itself to a core 10 here. But, Jay, of course, you got the outside looking in to start us off. Lake Station been on this kind of bubble for quite some time, but after that loss last week, they don't jump into the top 10 quite yet. Still a historical season. Again, they won their side of the GSSC, a 6-3 overall record, 3-0 in their division. But again, that 19-6 loss, they had 5 turnovers against River Forest, something we're going to have to clean up come tomorrow night for their sectional opponent. Just the second half to forget for. But Lake Station, Jay, again, to kind of harp on these guys one last time, at least in the top 10, quite the season. It's been a while since they've been in some sort of bubble or some sort of top 10, or even, again, flirt with and win a division championship. Some things to clean up come, their opponent tomorrow. But, hey, this has been a 2025 to remember for the Lake Station.
Oh, definitely. And it's going to make it a lot easier for Coach next year to go into the hallways and say, hey, you got to come out for football, get that freshman program, get the junior high program going. This is a huge step in the right direction for Lake Station. And
it's going to be a crucial year next year because they got a couple of seniors on that squad. Talking with Coach goalie there of Lake Station. Again, a strong group that he's been able to experience in his 4 years with the program. So interesting to see how they'll respond come 2026. But worried about the here and now. River Forest gets on the outside looking in after their win over the aforementioned Fighting Eagles. 4-5 record, 1-2 in their side of the GSSC. Troy Thompson, big shout out to him. He was a superhero of our game. One of those guys that came in on his senior night as a running back and was not the listed starter. Came in, opened up a rushing attack for River Forest that ultimately won them the ball game. Big shout out to Troy Thompson and big shout out to the Ingots for keeping a hold of that trophy and that rivalry. West Side also, another GSSC team on the outside looking in. We talked about them taking it to Calumet, their rival, put a 4-4 record. West Side always seems to be a team that, although they're looking for some postseason success, they do well in their level of competition. The GSSC now another 500 record. Kudos to what Coach Boz and again
an impressive win to end the season gives them something encouraging as they move forward into the playoffs.
No doubt about it. Kamari Loggins, the junior running back, big night to remember. 25 carries for 158 yards and 2 touchdowns. Chesterton comes in at number 10 on our list. Again, back-to-back challenges for them, so it's kind of tough when you have Crown Point 2 weeks ago, a game that you were at, Jay, and then they played Maryville last Friday. You don't want to penalize them for too much, but again, this was a team that really did not have much. They fought, but it was kind of a similar game script where the game got away from them early. They had to kind of resort to a passing game, and the rushing attack, especially Jay, has really been kind of non-existent for these past few weeks, and that's something that they kind of hang their hat on. At the beginning of the season, it's good to see Hunter Boyd kind of grow, the sophomore quarterback.
That's right.
We got to play this complementary football. But who knows? Maybe we expect that now in this 5A sectional, Jay. That's relatively wide open.
Well, and I think, one of the things I look at through, and I was sort of going through the notes that you sent me today, and I go, man, and I'm looking at Chesterton, I'm going, this is one of the teams that really surprised me coming out this year. You look at, you always got your Crown Point, you always got Maryville. Michigan City's right there, always just about a half a step behind. But all of a sudden now Chesterton has moved up in this top tier of teams in the Duland Conference. And to me, it's a big surprise and great season for the Chesterton Trojans.
And they're still seeking that first sectional championship in program history. What way to kind of cap off what's been a very solid 2025 and potentially make some history in the postseason. Morton flips spots with Chesterton, although, yes, this was a team that they lost to in week 2. Head-to-head, obviously, if you're doing better in your record, there's some things that maybe outweigh kind of head-to-head, if you will. Morton slips on top of Chesterton, though. They get the 9 spot. We talked about Morton. They won their conference, which is a conference that it might be a little bit top-heavy with Morton and kind of everybody else here. It's their 3rd straight title. But, Jay, the numbers that clear out, we talked about the conference of Hammond Central and East Chicago Central. They outscored the 2 opponents 134-6. So now it's, all right, Morton gets the week off like Chesterton, and now next up comes the Maryville Pirates. How would you kind of spend this week gearing up for a team that has, I think, won 6 straight sectionals and gunning for, more glory are the Maryville Pirates?
Well, first thing is I would work on the offense, get that offensive line ready for all the blitzes that they're going to see because Maryville throws the kitchen sink at you when it comes to blitz pickups for that offensive line because Maryville loves to play man over the top with their secondary defensively and work on keeping the quarterback contained because he is just as big with his arm as he is with his feet. So make sure everybody stays in their rush lanes. Those are probably the two big things I would work on.
It's going to be an exciting match we talk about next week. Again, the 5 and 6A classes had the week off, obviously, with the 4-team sectionals. So we'll dive into them a little bit later. But still, a big shout out to Morton putting up, obviously, winning a conference title and doing this with they battled some injuries and also have a freshman under center in Amari Price. This is the most wins in a season, actually, since Mac Misher fully took over in 2020, which was a good season. It was a shortened season for 2020, but then since then, this has been the best season, at least to date. Again, Morton with, plenty of college signees last year and obviously a couple injuries. And again, a relatively green, position under center. So far, they put up, obviously, the final top 10 ranking. They find themselves at the 9 spot. Wheeler takes a couple steps back. They were previously at 6. They dropped down to 8, 7-1, 2-1 in the GSSC South. Jay, we talked a lot about Griffith, but Wheeler, they got worn down. They're hoping to kind of get a little bit healthier come tomorrow night. But Jay, their overall assessment on Wheeler and maybe to wrap things up on them from what you saw again kind of last week.
I just think they're offensively they're solid, defensively they're solid. It's just they got pushed around physically in that second half against Griffith. But from what I see out there, their quarterback, their timing with the receivers, Van Tickle was awesome out there. He had to put the burden on his back once Murray went down, and he answered the door. But boy, he just not enough for one guy to bring him back. And in that two-way situation, you got a lot of these guys playing both ways, and he played both ways pretty much the entire game, and these guys were exhausted after that game. So they need to bounce back, put this behind them, and then, answer the bell when it comes time for playoffs.
Yeah, still gotta remind you, still a state-ranked team in the coaches poll at the two-way class. You talk about Tyne Vetical, that do-it-all guy, kind of took that Bryce Compton role of last year, and obviously you cannot lean on him. A defense that has some pieces as well. A lot of tackles go around in this game. C.J. Schaefer, 16 tackles. Noah Helmer had 13, and Connor Welch had 11. I believe two of those guys, at least as of now, will be coming back next year. They're non-seniors, so that's some good pieces to look out for. But again, records and conference championships lost, all kind of swiped clean as you gear up for tomorrow night. Jay, up at 7, a team that did lose but does not move based off of their performance last week are the Michigan City Wolves. 6-3 overall, 5-2 in the DAC. Zaire McKinney, once again, over 1,000 yards now on the season. He is far and away the leading receiver. The NIU commit, just one of those tough guys, size and speed, a matchup nightmare, if you will. And Jay, again, I think the one positive looking for Michigan City going further, they're in a sectional that's for the taking, and they're 3-0 against these 3 Duneland opponents in that group: Valparaiso, Chesterton, and LaPorte. I mean, you don't want to have that much of a smile on your face gearing up for Valparaiso come next week, but that's a good stat to look out for come sectional time.
And the thing is, if I'm the Michigan City staff, I make sure and show these guys that first half of that Crown Point game and say, this is what we need to play now moving forward the rest of the season. Once we get into the playoffs, once we start in a couple weeks, get some good couple weeks of practice and fine-tune things up, and boom, be ready for for their first round of the playoffs.
For those big dogs out there that are off this week, what would you say is kind of the practice plan? What would that look like for this first week, where obviously there's no game tomorrow for some of these schools? They're gearing up, probably watching film, doing whatever, getting their bodies right. But how would you maybe take this week? This 2-week stretch, I guess, if you will.
The first week is you're reviewing definitely what the opposing team's going to play, and you're also reviewing what you've done not so well and what you have done extremely well, and work on the things that you haven't done well. Whether it's lining up, whatever it is, that's what you focus on this week, and then try and fine tune those points and get everything on the same page. Maybe throw in a wrinkle or two here. Definitely offensively, defensively, throw in another blitz that you haven't shown all season. Maybe you got something hidden in your back pocket. You're gonna work on those things too. Hey, a lot of coaches like to throw in a couple wrinkles here and there, and make it a little fun for that first week of the playoffs.
Love it, cannot wait. But obviously, kind of one of those weeks. I remember as a player, I think we took it a little light. I think even that Friday we played Madden. We had a team Madden bowl, so that was kind of fun. I'd imagine maybe the Friday night. Might be watching a little bit more football, get more football in your life. But again, obviously those 5 and 6A schools, which it's a couple around here, they get that day off come tomorrow. The Hobart Brickies jump up to 6, 7-2 on the year, 5-2. They already bested last year's win total, which is positive for Eric Shriver Jr. entering his second season. It's been kind of a roller coaster where We talked about Hobart. They got up to as far as number 2 on our poll, a 4-0 start, dropped the last 2 games in there, between they had Lowell and Andrean. And then they win their next 3, which obviously the NCC title was not. They had 2 losses to Andrean's nothing. That's a goal that you got to kind of scrape away and, push elsewhere. But Hobart, now you're gunning for some more glory, and that's a sectional title.
And also, you got to look at those 2 losses that they had. They were very close games.
Yeah.
So look at those 2 games, show the guys hey, this is what we did well in these 2 very close games. This is what we need to correct moving forward. Again, looking back at those 2 games, show the kids, hey, this is what we did wrong in these 2 games. And boom, all of a sudden now you can correct it and move forward.
No doubt about it. Their 3 wins. They've talked about they beat Highland, had over 300 rushing yards in that game. It was a scoring party over there. They beat Morton, a top 10 team the week before, and responded against Hanover. Believe it or not, Hobart looking for its first sectional title since 2020. So this is a group, I could tell you, Jay, and we'll talk about that game coming tomorrow. But these guys, these fans too, this community is hungry.
Yes, they are. And it's a loud, boisterous crowd, and they show up. That's one thing about Hobart. They filled those stands up. They got a beautiful facility there, and they show up, and they enjoy their football.
If they could run the ball like that in this colder weather now, all of a sudden it's dipped quite a bit.
Yes.
It'll benefit them going forward. Entering the top 5 familiar faces, but a little shake up here at the bottom of it. Lowell now drops back to 5 after that tough loss to Andrean. Again, losing in the NCC championship, is one of those games where a couple turnovers there, the passing game could not keep going. They were 1 of 11 passing, and running into an Andrean defense there, Jay, that's just clicking on all cylinders. Not a team you worry about here now. Obviously, you want that NCC title, but once again, still such a fun season, such a kind of a shock, a surprise of a season, but this team's here to stay.
That's right, and this is one of the things, I sort of picked out each conference, my surprise team. Chesterton was in the Doolin, and this is my surprise team that had a great season. Came out of nowhere, really, and boom, 7-2, 5-1, fighting for the conference title the last week. What a great job by the new staff there.
Yeah, complimentary team all around. Yes, Casey McKim, like you said, just an instant impact as a head coach. He's a proven winner. Did a lot at New Prairie, which could be a sectional opponent here for the Lowell Red Devils, but especially bringing that winning culture over to RDP. But they dropped to 5, and jumping on top of them are the 4th-ranked Griffith Panthers, 8-1 on the season, 3-0 in their division. Again, rushing attack, Jay, that just got to Wheeler. I mean, this team especially, too, you talked about it. They are dominant in the trenches. They are a team that plays well beyond kind of their 3A class.
That's right.
And that might be something that we were talking about them last year. They light up the scoreboard really through their passing game. Right now, I think what we saw for these past few weeks, it's been more of the rushing attack, Jay.
Yes, definitely. And, well, I think the coaching staff is smart enough to figure out, hey, we're going to take what they're going to give us. And Wheeler sort of backed off, had some tight man coverage up front, and then left some lanes open for rushing, and then was very tight on the pass coverage. So they took what they could. They could still throw the ball whenever they needed to, and you can see it's a fine complementary offense. They've got that great rushing attack, and then when they need to, they can throw the ball as well and as accurately as anybody.
And they're ready to get ready for a sectional that we could argue is maybe a little bit top heavy. They have potentially a date with Knox in the second round.
That's
they
right.
have to get through Bishop Knoll coming tomorrow night, Jay. But Knox is, one of the state-ranked teams, one of those teams that, again, you got Miles McLaughlin in the backfield who's breaking records all across the state of Indiana and flirting with something in the country as well, flirting with the country leaderboards in Rosing. So that's a guy to look out for. But Griffith, again, another community, like we said with Hobart, that's very, very hungry, looking for some postseason success. They've had the regular season success, Jay, but now it gets real tough here. And Phil Mason, again, a coach that does not want to have his guys stay complacent. That was one of the things he said heading into the year.
And Coach Mason knows how to win in playoff time, so it's gonna be a fun run to see what they can do once we get to the sectional part of our conversation.
No doubt about it. Definitely one of the more intriguing teams. Top 3 stay the same. Andrean, the outright NCC champs, 8-1, 6-0 in their conference. Again, this was a team that was 3-7 2 years ago. To see that kind of growth, obviously they had a 3-way split last year, and they were not content with that. They took it all for themselves. Big shout out to them, a defense that only allowed 58 yards rushing, forced 2 fumbles, 69 total yards of offense allowed. Only allowed one completed pass against Lowell. This is a team, Jay, that, again, gave up 41 points week 1, but now that average has dwindled down to 9.6 points per game. And some of those points, Jay, they might have even been in what they call garbage time.
Yeah, that's right. I was helping out over at Andrean last week and ran into our old buddy Nathan, and Nathan was giving me the rundown on the scoring and said, hey, there's a lot of garbage touchdowns in there. There's a lot of this. And I'm like, Nathan, I get it. They've got a great defense.
You're right.
Yeah, and it is a swarming, aggressive defense that is going to take everything away. And you just got to figure out how to block them and how to try and keep them off the quarterback. Because if the quarterback doesn't have time, or they're blitzing and getting to the running back in the running game, they're just going to be unstoppable. And then now that they put some pieces together offensively, it's going to be a fun team to watch.
But this is maybe something to look out for. This Andrean team is the one team in their sectional that has a bye. Does that hurt or harm them? Obviously, does some good, does some bad. The team that's been rolling on clicking on all cylinders since that week 1 loss. But
I'm gonna say for the 59ers that it's going to help them, because think about it, they played all their games a class up.
That's true.
These guys, they don't have the big numbers that some of the other teams in their conference have, but they have some quality players, but just not the depth. So these guys can use a break.
Yeah.
Go watch the game that they're going to play. The teams that they're going to play next week, tomorrow night, they'll probably we'll see some Andrean jackets out there at that game, and have some fun with it. Rest up and get ready, get healthy for next week.
That's a good point, Jay. Top 2 also stay the same, like we said. Maryville at 2, Crown Point at 1. We'll start with the Pirates here, Jay. Maryville again, 42-7 over Chesterton. This is a offense that it's kind of pick your poison. This week was Cameron Jordan, who did a lot more as a rusher in a position we saw him in last year as a sophomore, more of the running back. He's been more of a receiver, pass catcher this year, but 3 touchdowns, 161 yards rushing. Ryan L. Lewis, 4 catches for 125. Mikel Smoot, 5 for 72 for a touchdown. Warren Brown had a pick 6. This defense had 15 tackles for loss, that aggressive defense. Jay, Maryville, again, although the Duneland title was one that got away from them early in the season, I mean, there's something bigger on the line here. They want to do some damage in that sectional. They've had a lot of success in a regional that's shaping up to be another potential successful run. And who knows? We don't want to look too far, but again, this Maryville team, Jay, week in, week out, the offense is there. The quarterback position especially. They could throw the football with 3 receivers still in the top 5 in receiving yards, all with Maryville Pirates. It's fun to watch here, Jay.
Yeah, it is. And this offense is just so explosive, and you just don't know where they're going to go each week. Again, it sounds like a broken record, but Maryville's going to be a team that is going to take full advantage of whatever you try and take away. They're going to go the other way. And there's really nothing you can say, all right, I'm going to take this running game away.
Yeah.
And then they throw the ball. Or, your defense has to be so balanced, and they can do anything on any given down. So it's a scary offense. And then with that blitzing defense, you just don't know what's going to happen. And can you keep your quarterback upright is the hard part against the Pirates.
That's right. And again, like that offense, you can't key on one guy. This week it's Cameron Jordan. Don't forget about J.Q. Johnson, one of their solid running backs as well, has been doing it for a few seasons. And again, the defense, 15 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 3 takeaways, held Chesterton, a team that could run the football fairly well. They were all business in that one. America,
right.
And their 2 losses, Jay, again, in weeks 2 and 3. Loyola, who's a team that's been sputtering, but then again, they're back-to-back state champions in Class 8A of Illinois and Crown Point. So those 2 losses are, don't want to say they're mulligans, but there's something that it's just,
So you're talking about my golf game already?
I might. I heard you talking about it before we got on, but that's neither here nor there. The top-ranked team of the Crown Point Bulldogs, 9-0, the lone unbeaten team in the area, 7-0 in the Duneland. Again, their 4th consecutive outright title. Although responded to some adversity, this is a team, again, that also gives you many different looks, many different players. And Max Gurnick has been one of the top sophomore running backs in the area. 200-plus rushing yards, had a couple of touchdowns. I believe I saw on Twitter, had 5 different ball carriers, once again, of Crown Point, found a way to score a touchdown, Jay. It's a 6A is going to be tough, and obviously they got high aspirations once again, but again, this run, 4 straight titles. You haven't seen that probably in quite some time.
Yeah, and I think their plan is to be going down and playing a Thanksgiving weekend. It's going to be a possibility for them, so let's see what they can do.
That's all we can do. We'll be back here with the final conference standings of the year and then dip a little bit more into the sectional pairings. You're watching Region Football Weekly presented by Tire Pros in Maryville on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.
Have you heard? Stratford-Mantell was voted Best of the Region 2025 in several categories, including Best Caterer, Deli, Flower Shop, Food and Grocery Delivery, Fried Chicken, Place to Buy Produce, Place to Buy Seafood, Loyalty Program, and Grocery Store. We're proud to be recognized by our community, and we're committed to continuing to deliver the variety, value, and convenience you deserve. See for yourself what it means to be the best when you shop at Stratford-Mantell.
Hi, I'm Crowell Company's Lantern Man. If you're a contractor, it's my job to make your insurance coverage simple and affordable. Because I know time is money, I'll come to your business. Certificates and bonds are a snap. Wherever you are, whatever business you're in, we've got you covered. As Crowell Company's Lantern Man, I'm your insurance superhero.
Crowell Company's Insurance Professionals, Highland, Merrillville, and Michigan City.
Thinking about what to do after high school? Consider a career with Boilermakers Local 374. As a Boilermaker apprentice, you'll earn while you learn. We offer excellent wages and benefits, and as part of our no-cost hands-on apprenticeship program, you'll learn from the best in state-of-the-art training centers and on the job. Become a union Boilermaker and get on your way to a great career. Find out more, visit www.local374.org or call 219-845-1000.
From lighting up Friday night football to powering the classrooms that shape the students of Lake County, IBEW Local 697 is proud to support our region schools and the communities we call home. A career as a union electrician could be your next great move. Your next cap might be a hard hat. IBEW Local 697, powering futures, powering the region.
Four Seasons Mechanical proudly serves Northwest Indiana, providing quality, reasonably priced, reliable service. With a quality and comfort guarantee, the professionals at Four Seasons Mechanical offer a wide range of services in heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Whether it's residential or commercial, Four Seasons Mechanical is there 24/7. To find out more, the website is fourseasonsmechanical.com or give them a call at 219-756-7020. Four Seasons Mechanical, your indoor air quality specialist.
Hi, this is Tim down at Tire Pros and Auto Superstore, 5200 Cleveland in Maryville. 219-887-3333 is our phone number. We've been serving the region and building relationships with our valued customers for the past 23 years. We have a wide variety of services, quality tires with the best warranty in the nation, and some of the most skilled mechanics I've ever worked with. Let us exceed your expectations. We're setting a new standard. Come on down, ask for Mike or Tim. We'll take excellent care of you. Thank you.
At American Testing Services, based in Hobart, Indiana, we specialize in NDT drone inspections and heat treatment services for local mills, fab shops, and facilities across the country. From Northwest Indiana to nationwide, we deliver precision, safety, and reliability. American Testing Services, America's trusted name in NDT. Hey, welcome back on into Region Football Weekly, presented by Tire Pros in Maryville. We are more than tires. Mike Dewan, Zach Sinelli, our producer, Jay Simmons. When you're talking high school football, we're usually the guys to talk about, at least on Thursday nights. But when we want to talk about haircuts, I know the guy as well. That is also Jay Simmons. Jay, talk to me about where you can get a good haircut around here.
Great question. It's Level Up Barbershop Lounge in Highland. Go to the Booksy app and book your next appointment. That's with Big C, Big L, and Axel on the Booksy app. And they're located right across the street from one of our sponsors, the Lantern Man Superhero.
That's right. So you can kind of bang them all out there. They're not too far from us as well, so we could even hike on down there. But you guys should do that as well. Head down to Level Up Barber Lounge in Highland, formerly in Griffith, but now located in Highland, doing a great job over there. Jay, we'll wrap it up on these conference standings. We talked about the conference champs, but we'll kind of break it all down. We'll go from top to bottom, and then we'll get into the sectional pairings, which were drawn 2 Sundays ago. So we'll start in the GLAC. Morton finished out on top for, again, their third straight title, 6-3 in the conference, 2-0 overall, followed by East Chicago Central and Hammond Central. In the north of the GSSC, Lake Station got the conference title, followed by Boone Grove, Whiting, and Bishop Knoll. the loaded South in the GSSC. Griffith stole the title from Wheeler, avenged that from last season. Right. That followed by Calumet, River Forest, and Westside, all teams in the South with 4 or more wins. So definitely a tough side over there. In the NCC, a photo finish over there, but it was the Andrean 59ers to come out with an 8-1 record, 6-0 in the conference, took the title for themselves. Again, this was a 3-way split last year. Following them was Lowell, Hobart, Hanover Central, Munster, KV, and Highland. In the Duneland, 4 ranked teams, but Crown Point took the cake, 9-0 overall, 7-0 in the conference for their 4th consecutive Duneland outright title, followed by Maryville, Michigan City, Chesterton, LaPorte, Lake Central, Valparaiso, and Portage. All right, Jay, we got to talk about the sectionals here. The 5 and 6, we'll harp on a little bit, but they're off, so we won't worry about them really till next week. But we'll start it off at sectional 41 in the 1A. A couple, few teams we're familiar with. They got LaVille and Culver Community. They're at the top of the bracket. North Judson and South Central. That game we play at South Central come tomorrow night. West Central and South Newton. And North Newton at Bowman. To not harp on too much what we did last week, but North Judson is definitely kind of the runaway at the 1A level. And Bowman's been a fun team. But again, I'd say North Judson, looking at if we were maybe to pick a winner moving forward.
If I'm going to pencil one in here, I got my pencil. I'm penciling them in right now.
And LaVille's got a good squad. They play pretty well, but North Judson, they start on the road, and if they win that one, I believe they're automatically at home. North Judson, a team that runs the football, and a team that's just a powerhouse in the 1A level. They played Pioneer last week, so already kind of getting that test that they may see moving forward in the 1A class. Moving up to 2A, a couple more teams we are familiar with. Only 3 games come tomorrow night because, like we said, Jay, Andrean will have the night off and maybe get a little bit more rested as they will play the winner of Wheeler and Lake Station. We talked about Andrean and how much that benefits them. And for Wheeler and Lake Station, again, smaller teams, smaller schools. We could talk about even at the 1 and 2A level. If you got some guys banged up, you got to gear up very, very fast here, or maybe kind of play your cards right to where, I don't know, if you got a favorable matchup, do you maybe have this guy take a week off and gear up for maybe a team like Andrean come next week, Jay? But interesting kind of philosophy in that one.
Well, I think you got to play to win the game, and if the game gets out of hand, then you got to start yanking some people. But I think Wheeler at Lake Station, that's going to be a fun game. Both teams are sort of down right now after the week 9 losses. So let's see who's going to be able to bounce back and come up with the victory. I think this one's going to be a fun game.
That's a game we'll talk about later, believe it or not. Rensselaer Central is at Boone Grove and Bremen is at Whiting. But again, only 3 games at the 2A level. Andrean will play the winner of Wheeler and Lake Station. At the 3A level, John Glenn is at Calumet. Calumet looking to get back in the win column after what's been kind of a tough final third to the season. Mishawaka Marion plays River Forest for River Forest's 4th consecutive home game. That's nice. That. No place like home, right? So good for the Ingots there. Griffith plays Bishop Knoll, and Knox plays Jimtown. I think we said it last week. In the bottom of the bracket, it's just kind of a grouping, Jay, that I think is just relatively top-heavy. Calumet, we've seen kind of the flaws from them. They've had some good moments here and there, but that's a fun matchup up there against John Glenn at Calumet, which is nice. River Forest, they've looked better. A big win last week. Mishawaka Marion's no team to sleep on. But that bottom half of the bracket,
that's right.
Griffith's a favorable opponent against Bishop Knoll. Knox is looking to win this sectional as well once again. And again, they got a former friend like Russ Radke over there that knows a thing or two about winning these dang things.
Yes, he does. And you pencil it in right now. You're going to have a classic come next Friday.
Mm-hmm. Potentially, right.
Potentially.
And that would be the second. I mean, if Griffith were to win and Knox were to win, they would play. It would be the second of 2 straight years between those two in the same round as well. And that game would be played at Knox, given how the things shape out in the bracket. But again, that could very well be, Jay, if that becomes the case.
That's right.
That might be the sectional championship, truth be told. That might be the 2 best teams, and that's just kind of how the way things work out in Indiana. Kind of luck of the draw on this one.
That's right. And, bad draw for both of these teams. You'd like to see these 2 teams battle it out for the sectional championship. But like you said, bad luck of the draw for both of these teams, and it's going to be a classic, I think. And Griffith going out to visit Russ Radke is going to be interesting.
Right. You talked about what we would probably want as media members or just fans, but maybe as a coach or as a player, would you rather rip the Band-Aid off early and let's say this matchup or any marquee matchup, a potential sectional championship, if you will, was played in the first Friday? Would you rather have that? Let's get where the lights are a little bit brighter and play that in 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, I personally would rather play in 2 weeks and get a couple warm-up games, work out some kinks, against, if you had a lesser opponent in your sectional, play them, hopefully you win, and then, but get things right, get it running good, and then, fine-tune it for that sectional championship. I think coaches like to do that kind of things.
Just cannot look ahead.
No, you can't. That's the one thing.
You cannot, be where your feet are, if you will, and it cannot be a trap game. And again, it's win or go home, ladies and gentlemen. So got to get the job done. Again, that 3A sectional. John Glenn at Calumet, Mishawaka Marion at River Forest, Griffiths at Bishop, Noel Knox is at Jimtown. Moving up to the 4A sectional, 17. Hanover Central takes on Lowell. Highland is at East Chicago Central. KV's at Westside. New Prairie's at Hobart. Jay, a fun sectional.
I think so.
Teams were more than 8 teams that we're definitely familiar with here in this one. Jay, your initial thoughts on just this grouping, how things kind of play out, and obviously, again, top and the bottom of the brackets.
Well, you got to look at it. We just talked about it a second ago, how the draw came out and how this draw came out. You got 2 of the best teams at opposite ends of the brackets, and no downplay of the other teams, but you just got Lowell coming off a great season, and you've got Hobart with just 2 losses on the season that were very close in conference. So these 2 teams can match up again, and I'm going to be doing that Lowell at New Prairie at Hobart game. So it's going to be a fun one. We'll talk more about that in a few seconds.
And I think we talked about Lowell and Hobart, who are again ranked teams, are teams that are very good in the NCC, had great seasons. That I think if you were to get through this game, then it may set you up with a second round opponent that you want to try and maybe avoid a look ahead game in that one, because I don't want to say the road gets a little bit easier. But again, this first round game, I'd say, though, it's 2 quality opponents, with Lowell playing Hanover Central, respectively, a team they've seen already this year, a 35-20 game, a couple weeks, well before. And New Prairie is a team that has sent Hobart packing for the past few seasons. So, Jay, they got to get things done early, because things may coast a little bit after, but hey, it starts pretty quick for these 2 squads.
And if these 2 teams do win, then at the last third of the practice, you're starting to practice again. Lowell would be running some plays at Hobart, and Hobart would be running some plays or some defensive schemes that the opposing teams run, not necessarily playing against the teams that they're working against that week, but they would be also practicing a little bit, just a little sliver of time, and then preface it by saying, "Hey, we're not looking ahead."
Yeah, no, right, no doubt about it. All right, we'll talk about the teams that are off this week. We'll at least talk about them a little bit, we should say. Michigan City's at Valparaiso come next Friday. LaPorte is at Chesterton. That is sectional 10 in 5A. At the 9A, Munster is at Hammond Central, and Maryville is at Morton. And the big dogs at sectional 1 in 6A, Lake Central's at Crown Point. Penn is at Portage. For all of those teams, have a good night's rest tomorrow, and we'll talk about them next week. We'll take a step aside here. We'll talk about the top games of the week, including the games on the Region Sports Network. You're watching Region Football Weekly on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town. Level up your haircut at Level Up Barber Lounge in Highland. With over 30 years of combined experience, walk in today and get treated by some of the best in the business. To book an appointment, call 219-513-9083. Or hit up Big Al, Big C, or Axel at the Booksy app or webpage. Head to Level Up Barber Lounge in Highland for a well-executed cut like a well-executed play.
Old Man Winter is just around the corner, and that means temperatures will soon begin to drop. And a region winter is not the time to be left out in the cold. The professionals at Economy Electric Heating and Cooling can tune up that old furnace or install a new unit that can last for years. Your family deserves to stay comfortable this winter, and with 24/7 emergency service, comfort is just a phone call away. Economy Electric Heating and Cooling, 219-923-4441. Or for more info, the website is forajobdoneright.com.
Earn while you learn from the best hands in the business. The Bricklayers Allied Craftworkers for Indiana Kentucky Apprenticeship. That's right, this is a paid apprenticeship.
I'm getting an education while learning a trade and getting paid for it. The thing that surprised me the most about this apprenticeship program is the respect I've received after the proper time and training.
Classes start soon, so apply now. There are training centers throughout Indiana and Kentucky. We are the Bricklayers and Allied Craft Workers for Indiana Kentucky Apprenticeship, the best hands in the business.
Flip the switch, a light turns on. Press the button, machines and instruments come to life. Touch the screen, communicate with the world. Simple tasks, guaranteed results, every second of every day. That's the power of power. And that's the power brought to you by the NECA contractors and electrical workers of Local 531.
Calling all current and future homeowners in the Northwest Indiana area. Whether you're buying or selling, Brent Wright is here to make your real estate journey smooth and successful. With years of experience, personalized service, and a deep knowledge of the market, Brent will help you find the perfect place or get the best deal for your property. Call today at 219-406-7195 and take the first step toward your real estate goals. Contact Brent Wright, the right way to buy and sell real estate.
Back here on Region Football Weekly, live from the Athletic Performance Factory, our Center Bank studio. All this is made possible by Tire Pros in Maryville. We are more than tires. Mike Dewan, Jay Simmons, Zach Zanelli, our producer. Jay, we won't talk about all those games you just talked about. We could probably run through the sectional graphics, over the course of when we're talking through here. But we'll talk about the top games, or I guess game of the week that we're not doing on the Region Sports Network. And we'll start it here with Hanover Central at Lowell. Two teams that are familiar with each other, especially now new conference opponents that are kind of geographically close. They're two teams that, again, kind of on that, the outskirts, we could say, over there, kind of in the NCC. But two teams that, again, I played in week 4, 35-20. Lowell got the victory over Hanover Central. Again, they put up points. Obviously, this is a team that is trying to rebound after last week's loss to Andrean, while Hanover Central coming off of a big-time victory over Hammond Central. Jay, a good one over here at the Inferno for sure.
And that crowd's going to show up loud and proud. Yeah. And I think this, as time goes on, this is going to be one of those fun rivalry games because of just the proximity. You talk about Lake Station and River Forest. You talk about Highland Griffith. Now, the new rivalry game is now for Lowell is going to be Hanover. They always had that Crown Point Lowell game going on. Now, I think this is going to be a fun one, and they're going to have some animosity towards each other, especially, Hanover losing to them early in the season. They're going to put that chalkboard material up there, that bulletin board material, say, hey guys, we got to bounce back from this one.
And in that game, 35-20 in week 4, Brody Kowinski had 2 touchdowns, had a lot of rushing yards at his quarterback position. Timothy James had 2 touchdowns on his own. I think he had 1 passing as well, 132 yards rushing. Wyatt Toole, the quarterback of Hanover Central, was 17-32 for 218 yards, a touchdown, and Dominic Giglio had 92 rushing yards for the Wildcats. Jay, I think the one thing playing at Lowell is very tough at any given time of the year, but I did their game against Hobart last year in the sectional opener, and there was a big stress on. I don't think they have many noisemakers in the tournament, so I think they had a strict cowbell restriction, which is very, very tough with the Lowell faithful. But I mean, I'll tell you what, that play has a little bit of no effect. But the Inferno, it's tough to go against Lowell, who's very hungry, I bet, and very mad after last week's loss to Andrean, and to be back at home against Hanover Central after getting the win on them, a couple weeks ago. Cowbells or not, I think I like the Devils in this one.
I have to agree with you. I do like the Red Devils in this one. It's funny, is back in the day when we were doing radio eons ago, that whoever had the cowbell was right in front of us, right next to the crowd mic, and the whole night we'd hear the announcer doing the first down and the cowbell going at the same time. It was great times, and I'm sure the Lowell faithful are going to be out there, and it's going to be nuts.
That PA announcer's etched in my head as a former Mustang and going to Lowell and suffering a lot of first downs against us. Let's just say that. So it brings back bad memories. A tough place to play. A good one nonetheless, and Tony Bartolomeo is definitely looking for that signature victory, and what's a better time to do it than a place like that for Hanover to – Jay, I guess, seeing an opponent twice is something that is a rarity kind of in season, but at the 4A sectional, it's kind of why it's one of the more fun ones, and you see at the 6A, especially in that 5A section with all the Duneland opponents. But gearing up for a second meeting with an opponent, what's that like being on the winning side of the first meeting and the losing side of the first meeting?
Well, I think for both coaches, you go back and just study the heck out of that film and see what they did to you and what adjustments you can make, whether they were successful at it or not successful. And both teams are just picking that apart. You also go back to some trends that you set throughout the season and try and get away from those trends. Hey, I don't want to be locked in on, hey, I'm third down and I'm in this formation, I'm running this play. You got to take that predictability out of it. Big time for that. Also
excited to see how both these teams definitely grow.
What is it called? The analytics of the game.
Yeah, right nowadays, right? Analytics for sure. 2 games on the Region Sports Network come tomorrow. You can find all of these video broadcasts. Before we get into it, you can find the video broadcasts exclusively on the IHSAA Champions Network. We'll be sure to provide those links on all of our social media platforms to make it very nice and easy for you guys to find our feeds. But 2 great games. We'll start it off at the 2A level. Wheeler will take on Lake Station. Jay and I hinted at it earlier. The winner of that game will take on the 3rd-ranked Andrean 59ers. 2 teams, Jay, like you said, trying to respond from pretty emotional losses last week with a lot on the line. Jay, looking at this one, you saw Wheeler last week. Lake Station, I saw a team that could run the football in Lake Station. They may have to try and open it up, and they had 5 turnovers last week. That can't happen against a Wheeler defense that is looking to respond as well, Jay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Lake Station's going to have to play a clean game. I think of the 2, Lake Station's really going to have to play a clean game. Yeah. That means no penalties, no turnovers, control the ball, because Wheeler, even in that loss, showed flashes of greatness on offense. That opening drive, they scripted it out beautifully. We were able to take the ball down the field. And if Lake Station lets that happen, it could get ugly early.
Lake Station is a very aggressive defense, though. Logan Fox, the quarterback for Wheeler, if they do kind of resort to a more passing game, which I know the rushing attack of Wheeler, they might have been a little bit banged up last week. And although the numbers were great, it's going to be interesting to see who's going to be that guy at the tailback position. But they're going to have to get the ball out early if they do resort to the passing game. Lake Station has a couple cats over there, Caden McNeil, Oscar Alderson, some names you hear about. Also on the offensive side as well. But again, that game coverage for both of our games, we should say, will be around 6:45 p.m. Again, exclusively on the IHSAA Champions Network. I believe for that game, I think we'll provide a silent scoreboard for that one as well for you guys to take a look at on YouTube and Facebook.
That'll be fun.
If you want to take a look at the video coverage, again, the Champions Network is the place to go. And a game that you'll be at, Jay, a second of 2 games, New Prairie takes on Hobart. Jay, this is a game that's always kind of a marquee matchup. But New Prairie, obviously, we talked about Casey McKim, what he's done at Lowell, the former New Prairie head coach. Now it's kind of a rebuilding phase for New Prairie. 3-6 overall record, their worst regular season record, and it's been a couple years. It's been before the Casey McKim era. They do have a cat in Reed Robinson, who's been a thorn in this Hobart side. Again, they've sent them packing these past 3 sectionals. But again, Hobart, it's hard not to be a little bit optimistic now. Looking at, you don't want to look too much on paper. But, hey, I mean, this may not be the New Prairie team that we've kind of seen in years past.
And I think with Coach O'Shea from New Prairie, I'm looking at the schedule right here, and I'm seeing all of a sudden they go 0-5. Then in the last half of the season, they go 3-1. So it seems like all of a sudden these kids, after 5 weeks, are starting to buy into what he's selling. And this could be interesting. You've got Reed Robinson accounting for, I think I have it right here, 27 touchdowns, and 22 of them on the ground.
He's a quarterback.
5 of them through the air, 22 of them on the ground. So as he goes, so does this offense. And they run that Veer type offense where he's going to be eating that ball a lot and he's going to have the ball a lot in his hands. So as he goes, so does this New Prairie Cougars team.
So prepping for the game, Jay, why would this year maybe be a little bit different despite the recent heat check of New Prairie? And you have Reed Robinson still coming back, who knows a thing or two about beating the Hobart Brickies. But why, although we haven't seen much of Hobart this year as a company on the Region Sports Network, this is a team that we're at least looking. They have the pieces. They got a quarterback of their own in Alex Tatum. They got the second year of Eric Schreiber Jr. and a strong nucleus and a good record to show for it. But
That's
why
right.
This year, Jay, being at home at the Brickyard, I'm not asking for a prediction, but New Prairie obviously still a team that's not going to go away. That 3-6 record doesn't mean squat at this time. But Hobart, I mean, they're hungry. looking for their first sectional championship since 2020. Why this year?
Well, I think with Coach Schreiber getting the pieces all together and everything just the way he wants, he came up a couple games short, with a couple close losses, but I think he's got it going just the way he wants it, and now he's got the pieces together where he feels comfortable, and now this could be a nice run for the Brickies here in the playoffs.
It's going to be exciting.
Yes,
and
it
more
is.
importantly, Jay, again, that you'll be at, get there early because
That's
partying's
right.
going to be tough, right?
And the fun part about it is that the crowd is going to be excited. The town's going to be excited about it. It's going to be a great showing for the Brickies coming out. This could be a sneaky team in this fun sectional.
We're excited.
Yeah.
It's the most fun time of the year as a
That's
football
right.
fan, where it is win or go home, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, it stinks that teams now after tomorrow night will be saying kind of goodbye to those athletes, goodbye to those big moments, goodbye to those fun teams. But hey, someone's got to come out on top, and the quest for Lucas Oil starts tomorrow night. Again, 2 games on the Region Sports Network. Wheeler takes on Lake Station, and New Prairie is at Hobart. Those games exclusively will be on the IHSAA Champions Network. We'll have something for both of those games on our Facebook and our YouTube. I believe for that Hobart game, we'll be taking the audio from that one as well. But Jay, any final thoughts as we gear up for what is a fun, scary time for kind of the players as well? Kind of one, not bittersweet, but just one of those. It's like it's real, to say the absolute.
That's right.
It's a real time.
Now the team's got to come out and play at their peak performance right here, right now. Play the best game that you possibly can, because guess what? This could be the last time you put your helmet on.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Again, 2 games tomorrow. As we mentioned, we'll also have our Strack and Vanta hometown scoreboard going with all the scores in the relevant regional sectional pairings. We'll also have a studio presence come tomorrow night. Cannot wait, Jay. Feel free to take a look at all of our social media platforms to stay updated with what we have come tomorrow night. For Zach Sinelli, our producer, for Jay Simmons, my co-host, I am Mike Dewan. Thank you all for watching Region Football Weekly, presented by Tire Pros in Maryville. We are more than tires on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.